Welcome to Shweta's Talkies Season 1. Let's chat and have some fun. People, their lives, their struggles and their joys. Faces, their truths and their beauty. Things of value, not price. I'm old school and I'm blunt. I like to explore things. I like to explore people and their emotions, places and their truths. Join me for Shweta's Talkies. Welcome to Shweta's Talkies. Today I have Mr. Sriranjan Srinivasan, an old friend of mine and an associate professor with Pearl Academy of Fashion. Sriranjan, welcome to us.
Thank you, Shweta. It's always a pleasure and a privilege.
We have witnessed industry as very immature.
Very.
Western fashions had started coming. How has it changed? How has the industry changed then and now?
The industry has changed quite vastly. You can say it's taken a complete U-turn. Because from a place where you are thinking that, okay, we are just infants entering into the fashion scene and seeing where the global level was, today we are in a stage, we are, I think, just a few steps away from being a leader in the international fashion field. And like I can see it in my students, the level to which they are approaching the global fashion scenario, the way the global fashion is emerging and India's integration into it. So I think it's just a matter of time where I can say that we've arrived.
What is the difference between us as fashion students and the fashion students now?
When we were students, a lot of naivety was there. For getting even a small information, we really struggled a lot. And after that, our outcomes came.
Yes, we did not have information technology for research. We literally had to go to the...
We used to go to Purani Delhi, the by-lanes of Purani Delhi.
Swatches of fabric.
Yes, swatches. And even for getting good visuals, scan through the Daryaganj book bazaars, South Ex book bazaars, to get the right visual for the kind of moods and the boards that you were creating, So those were the days when we were struggling for every bit. Even to take a printout was a big deal.
Yes, we have to go to the library.
Yes.
To get 2 printouts or
yes.
3 printouts or 4 printouts, and we had to say color printout or black and white.
Black and white. And the cost that comes along with it.
The costs that come along with it.
The students today have information at the tip of their fingers. The generations are changing much faster than what we used to. I could see the difference, like when I can say that my final year students, they could be the Insta generation. And my first year students, they are the ChatGPT generation.
Oh, big difference.
Can you see the difference happening within one whole course change within 4 years? Okay, so the attitudes have changed, their approach has changed. There is a greater level of confidence, but at the same time, the flip sides are also there. I see the lack of patience quite a lot of distractions, irritability coming in at times. Sometimes giving up becomes easy for them. The level of in-depth analysis that is required to sow the seeds of maturity in your research work, I think that needs to be revived somewhere down the line.
You think for basic information that the teachers used to ready the students with, has ChatGPT made it redundant?
ChatGPT will make your life easier, but will not make your life. You understand that? The life comes from the human intelligence, the way society functions. Of course, technology is going to make your life much more easier. Technology is going to give a hell of a lot of options. Technology is going to make you reach your destination faster, but the initiative needs to come from us. So I believe that as a teacher and as a student, I think the human factor still remains the biggest factor.
We used to be shit scared of our teachers. Okay? ChatGPT is not going to be, we're not going to be shit scared of ChatGPT. We prompt ChatGPT to do things for us.
Yes.
Teachers prompted us to do things for them.
Yes.
That balance is definitely not the same.
That balance is definitely not the same. But it's like water everywhere, but which one to drink, okay? So there is information around you everywhere, but which is the right kind of information that needs to be put in together in order to sail you through the academic process, that can only be generated by a teacher, because after all, the relationship between a teacher and a student is the key ingredient in any academic progression.
If you could speak to all your students, what would you make them understand about teachers that they maybe don't or they take for granted?
As a student, I would say life is a little bit more easier, a little bit more exciting, a little bit more challenging also. But for teachers, things have changed forever because teachers now coming from that generation where the technology was not the main thing, they had to adapt themselves to that first of all. And they have to adapt themselves not only to technology but to the everyday changing technology. Because everyday changing technology comes up with a change of attitude, a change of approach, which you see in students.
Was it hard? Because you're looking at, I mean, you would be viewed as a relatively younger teacher than your seniors. Was it hard for them? Or are they still learning? Are they learning technology along with the students?
Absolutely they are. Yeah. Absolutely. That's why I respect my senior teachers who are there along with me for the sheer vision they have for the technology to play its role in the academics. Let's remember one thing, we are not talking about being IT professionals, we are fashion designers. So by the end of it, technology can come into the extent wherein by which you want to. Eventually the creative power has to be within you. There is a need to be more focused because this is an era, Shweta, where distractions are too much. And I can say that because I am also a student right now into one of the courses that I'm enrolled in. And I feel that there is distraction for myself, so I can easily empathize with my kids, yeah. But at the same time, I would like the students to understand that teachers are available for you every time. Only thing is, you really need to do your bit so that the teacher can support you in it. Like the old saying, I'm a bit old school in that also. You can take a horse to the pond, but you cannot make it drink. So that initiative, that interest, that passion, that drive and the willingness to work hard for it needs to come from you. Because I don't need to add in the smart work bit of it. They already are a smart generation.
They're smart generation, much smarter than us.
Much smarter than us.
Teacher-student relationships have also evolved over a period of time.
Yes.
It has become a lot more casual now, I think, which is good.
I would rather not call it casual, I would rather call it informal.
It's a definition
terminology,
for it.
Right?
Great terminology. Give us an interesting episode for a particular interaction which kind of stayed with you.
There are many. Like in a single day, I would have many episodes. So one such incident which immediately comes to my mind is a time when I thought that the students are still the same, you know. So what happens is too much of hectic schedule of classes, and I am caught up in a situation where I feel that my next class, which is supposed to happen post lunch, I'm already something about the timing factor. I feel that it's going to happen immediately after I'm getting out of my class, okay? So I catch the students. So I decide that, okay, I'm going to get out. As I'm getting out into the corridor, out from the lift comes my students who were supposed to be sitting in the class immediately after that, which was supposed to happen 2 hours later. I see them and I tell them, okay, you guys are here, come let's go to the classroom. The class is happening now. You won't believe it, Shweta. They just followed me to the classroom without saying a single word. They attended the whole 2-hour session.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. While they were hungry and cranky.
Absolutely. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine, like, I wasn't probably bothered about whether I was hungry or not. I was bothered about my class should happen on time. There I'm walking into the class and they follow me and they quietly sit through the entire session. Suddenly, after some time, one of my colleagues reminds me that, Sriranjan, the lunchtime is over. Where are you? And that's where I'm shocked.
That's why you understood?
Shweta, I'm really shocked. I was really shocked. I asked the students, weren't you aware that this was not the time of our class? Students said, sir, you met us and you told us to follow, and we just followed.
Oh, that's actually, you're the Peter Pan of that college, aren't you? They followed you hungry and cranky is what I'm trying to tell you.
I wouldn't say that. So that is one incident which made me, oh my God, the students are still the same. They are willing to follow the teachers, okay? Now, the other side of it, where I'm sitting, there's a class scheduled, and I'm sitting and waiting for the students to come in. Not a single student turns up. And what do I get instead? 100 messages from students saying, sir, today this thing is happening. Sir, today that thing is happening. My cat jumped out of the window. I got stuck in the traffic. I just have to take my grandfather to a funeral.
Grandfather went to the funeral. That's a deep.
The amount of excuses a faculty gets from the students just reminds us how we were during when our student days were there. We weren't so creative with excuses as much as the students are now.
We were just shit scared most of the time.
Oh, of course
You
we
remember our
were.
faculty? We just shit scared.
Oh yes,
I think the faculty stepped foot on the entire campus and we were already in our rooms.
we had to be.
We
in
had
the
to be,
rooms,
right?
Right.
But so,
We were too scared of being shut. The door shutting on our face. So that was so. I'm sitting and waiting, and all I'm getting is WhatsApp messages about why everyone is not. So it reminds me of the story of Akbar and Birbal, if you remember that. Where Akbar tells everyone that in the tank everybody should put 1 jug of milk, and in the morning it should be full. So every villager in the village, they go and put 1 jug of water, thinking the other person would be putting the milk. So in the morning, he gets a whole tank full of water, not a single drop of milk. So similarly, all the students thought that they are not coming, but the rest of the class is coming. So it's okay. But it never happened. And there I was sitting there 2 hours just reading the messages and replying to them.
what do you think the old generation of teachers, which may not have caught up with the new one, do not understand about the young lot today?
They come with great values and even greater visions for the students, a larger vision. I believe as a faculty,
Holistic.
yes,
They were more holistically
Yes.
involved. Is that what you're saying?
yes, I would say that.
I think our teachers were teachers, parents when we were at school or college. They were therapists when we were stressing out as well.
Oh yes, they would sit across with you. They would try to find a solution for you. Sometimes they would even know more about your situation than you yourself would be.
Fashion education in India also changed, didn't it?
A lot.
How?
So earlier, I would rather say, if you look at the history of fashion, fashion was changing every decade. And then we reach a stage where fashion is changing almost every 2 years. And now we reach a state when we were students, if you remember spring, summer, autumn, winter, that was the time when fashion changed. And now I feel we reached a stage where we have trickling down effect, trickling up effect, and we have trickling across effect. So fashion is now more democratic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So earlier fashion
As
was.
versus Republican? Just fashion is more democratic.
Fashion is more democratic, I would rather say. Of course, there are Met Galas where the riches are flaunting their haute couture and everything. And you have fashion happening on the street, which is equally interesting.
Streetwear. Streetwear as well.
Streetwear is one of the most interesting aspect of fashion. So when I'm looking at fashion, the way it has changed in India, okay, we have an influx of technology coming into it. Now, somewhere down the line, I correlate to the fact that India is now the IT capital of the world also. So somewhere down the line, technology seems to be more easily adapted out here compared to a lot of other countries. But only thing is, taking in technology is just not enough. You really need to know how to process it for the kind of the kind of field that you are in, that is fashion. How do you convert that to fashion? You can't keep on making costumes. You're making it for the everyday life of the people. So the society has changed. The needs of the people have changed. The 3 things like need, want and desires have also changed.
How has it changed? For example, we used to take a sketch and pen and sketch and color it. Then we will have 3 other colorways and we present it to Bani ma'am, for example. How has that process changed with technology?
Even the process of giving input has changed, Shweta. They will go through the briefs. They will do the research then and there. In fact, it's a part of the teaching methodology also now. One of the part is where I tell them, okay, open your Google right now. So instead of saying that don't use Google or don't use this,
You're prompting them to
you're
open
telling
it.
like, okay, I'm giving you 3 minutes. And that's the topic. So each one of you try to find maximum information out from there and get back to me right now in the class and make a, come out with a presentation on that.
Fair enough.
So that way technology has changed. The presentation formats have changed. It's more of e-presentation now.
You know what I was thinking right now? We used to keep fixing everything before showing to the teacher, and now they can do it in like a second.
They do it, everything is done for them. Spell check is done for them, visual correction is done for them. There's everything done for them.
What are your students doing exactly?
They are just putting the things together.
What's that one thing you wished your students understood about you or the teachers?
You have the right to get influenced, but please don't imitate. Be original. Original, because originality is the key word. Without originality, believe me, you will be lost in this world, especially in a creative field like fashion.
Enough, and you can detect it as a teacher कि ये original है कि नहीं आपको समझ आ जाती है.
Absolutely. भाई बच्चे IT स्मार्टर हो रहे हैं, like we are also getting equally smarter.
कॉलेज में हमको बहुत रिजेक्ट होते थे हम, और इसीलिए हम
Shweta, can you believe it? Like even if you didn't copy also, you know, we were quite often at times blamed that okay, this looks very similar to something else, and we would bear the brunt of it also. Okay, so we couldn't even afford to do that during those days.
Yes, it's less stressful. I think थोड़ा हम ज़्यादा स्ट्रेस हो जाते थे भाई, हमारी रैगिंग हुई थी बुरी तरह से,
बिल्कुल,
उस पे स्ट्रेस मिला, फिर टीचर्स बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट होते थे, उस पे स्ट्रेस मिला, somehow it worked.
You know why it worked? Because the healthy ragging used to open up the walls between the juniors and the seniors quite a lot, okay? And there was a relationship which was built up with the system. Today they all are secluded in their own worlds.
How comfortable it is with personal dispute.
Because लड़ाई झगड़ा हो जाता है, and I think eventually, I think it's a younger generation, they adapt very easily like we used to also. Egos नहीं होते थे. आज के ज़माने में if you're fighting with one of your colleagues, then it takes quite some time to make up, right?
अच्छा,
Yeah.
fair enough. In your class, I think you would take various subsections of class. I think what are the topics that you deal with?
Apart from the market, the creative instinct also needs to be equally nurtured, because otherwise, you know, you will just become another run of the
आप
mill.
कह रहे हो कि what we graduated 98, right? तो उस ज़माने में हमने जब graduate किया था, we were purely creative thinkers. We had no idea about the market.
He did.
Now the students have more idea about the market, but you are saying maybe अच्छा idea होगा थोड़ा creativity भी tune in करें. Is that
Yes,
what you're saying?
there are processes within the system itself which allows you to do that creative churning. But it's that they just need to find the right balance between the market and the creativity, because I feel that some students will always be market oriented. जैसे मार्केट जो डिमांड करती है उसके हिसाब से दे कैन टेक केयर ऑफ द, ठीक है मार्केट के लिए बनाओ भाई आप, ओके, लहंगे चोली बनाने हैं आपको, या आपको गाउन्स बनाने हैं, या आपको शेरवानीज एंड सूट्स बनाने हैं, ओके, और या एथलीजर स्ट्रीट वेयर, जो मार्केट डिमांड करिए आप उसके हिसाब से बनाइए. द अदर एस्पेक्ट इज आप क्रिएटिवली कुछ नया ला रहे हैं, एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट लेके आ रहे हैं जो आपकी सोच पे निर्भर करता है, विच इज टोटली डिपेंडेंट ऑन योर सोच.
उस ज़माने में मटेरियल्स लिमिटेड थे, हमें क्रिएटिविटी से प्ले करना पड़ता था.
बिल्कुल.
आज की डेट पे मटेरियल्स अनलिमिटेड हो गए हैं.
राइट.
तो तुम्हारा आउटपुट काफ़ी चेंज हो सकता है. मतलब योर वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट डिज़ाइनिंग डजंट हैव टू बी stuck to the physical design of it. It could be process, it could be even sustainable
Yes.
materials,
Yeah.
it could go to performance wear. There's so many things जो उस ज़माने में था नहीं.
Yeah, but that is where I'm trying to tell you also that today the academics is a greater challenge than it was ever before, you know. So now as a faculty, as an academician, I know about individual skills and the strengths of every student of mine, you know. So you are more personalized as a faculty. You give greater attention to them, you nurture them in order to ensure that कि ठीक है, this is our existing process, तुम उससे deviate करना चाहते हो अपने skill set के हिसाब से, go ahead, I'm there to support you. कुछ नया करो तो भाई.
Fashion design jobs were very limited then. अभी क्या सीन है?
अभी तो it's unlimited, Shweta. Fashion has become in fact so vast as a word. So now you can like fashion designing, when we were students, if you remember, some of them would go into styling, some of them would go into some kind of editorial things, and blah blah blah. In fact, I remember it. I don't know if you remember, Shweta. I think only 10% of the classmates are doing fashion designing now.
That is true. Very पहले I think हमारा पहला पे स्टब आपको 10,000 मिले थे, मुझे 11,000 महीने के, है ना? 10,000 या 11,000 रुपए का सैलरी होता था महीने का.
Now, the moment you use the word fashion, it also means fashion designing, deviates into something called fashion styling, then it deviates into something called fashion communication, then it deviates into something called fashion photography. It's become very specific
Fashion merchandising,
now.
yeah.
Fashion merchandising. It's become very specific now. So they see nowadays more of Sabyasachi, they see a lot of Manish Malhotras, you know, and Anita Dongres. So they all come up with a dream of that and suddenly realize that it's a lot of things in front of them.
Have you added business education for fashion graduates?
Very much. Very much. Business education
बहुत
is
ज़रूरी होता, हमारे ज़माने में था नहीं.
not at all. Here at every level, Shweta, like right from the foundation level to the first level to the second level, now business is an integrated part of the fashion now.
I always say designing of any form. When you get into designing or a creative field, you're in the business of designing.
Yes. the business of fashion.
You're in the business of fashion, you're in the business of designing, so you cannot not have the business angle. I think मतलब बच्चों को वो चीज़ तो आप लोग
बिल्कुल. See, that aspect is there, that wherein by which we encourage that they should have an understanding of the business part of the fashion also.
How do you impart that in?
There are various modules which are actually making them to go into the market and do the research. There are various platforms available wherein by which they go and research about what's happening in the market. They have to individually go and see clients and go into their world to understand what is the client requiring, what is the need that they are looking forward to. According to that, you have to cater. What is the options available today? What is it that as a designer that you can offer them a little bit more? What is going to be your work into it, your input into it?
What is the readiness that the colleges provide for fashion students for the world of business? Because eventually they're going to go into the business of fashion.
You have people from the industry coming over. We have got a series of master classes that happens, wherein by which experts, the legends from the field come and educate the students about what's fashion all about and what's the business of fashion all about, okay?
Practical advice for graduating students, please.
Where creativity is the most important thing, okay?
But creativity तो मतलब जो बंदा डिजाइन स्कूल में गया वो बेसिकली क्रिएटिव ही होएगा.
दो हाथ और दो पैर ही तो है. You will say that कि कितना डिजाइन करेंगे.
अब वो जब ग्रेजुएट हो गया है उसके बाद एक भ्रम टूटता है ना जब इंडस्ट्री में जाते हैं. नहीं टूटता.
I'll tell you the reason why. Because while they are being educated itself, they're constantly made to be aware that there is a market that eventually they are going to cater to. Today, the kids are a little bit more wiser, They are not willing to become Vincent Van Goghs, who would, finish off themselves in order to create that ultimate thing, okay? So they are more smarter.
What are the set of challenges that we had versus the set of challenges the students nowadays have?
The difference is heaven and hell.
Were we hell or heaven?
Both ways, by the way. Now that's as confusing, isn't it? Okay. The kind of stresses that we used to undergo was how are we going to prove ourselves? Because we were in a very nascent stage of fashion, उस टाइम पे तो क्या था कि भाई we were supposed to become the next Alexander McQueen's, and उस जमाने के हिसाब से रोहित बल बनना था या girls you wanted to become Ritu Beri and Ritu Kumar and things like that. Challenges nowadays the students facing is, number one is undoubtedly distractions. Second thing is, one of the very prominent aspects which I find is that of mental health. That's a major problem. Maybe the lifestyles, the world has changed substantially, Shweta, and lifestyle itne change ho chuke hain. They're getting stressed out at a lot of things in life, okay, including human relationships, including technology, including the kind of ability to handle the stress. You should start taking corrective measures immediately.
Like what?
Like start listening to them. What are their problems? Don't try to bring in generations out here, because they are not living in our generation time. They are living in their generation time. Now, when I'm talking about generation, we are 40 plus people, okay, and they are 20 minus people.
We are like 50 minus people. We are not 40 plus, we're 50 minus.
Yeah, 50 minus or 50s, okay, and they are 18, 20. Their problems are different. Don't try to say कि हमारे ज़माने में ऐसा होता था. You can't say that. And don't try to justify the student to take that pathway.
Correct.
You understand that? Their idols are different. Their muses are different. So I believe that.
मतलब हम लोगों का स्ट्रेस होता था कि जल्दी काम खत्म करके IIT जाएंगे, अंडा पराठा खाएंगे.
बिल्कुल.
इनका स्ट्रेस होता है वापस जाकर के मे भी कुछ गेम खत्म करना है. I don't know.
नहीं, सबमिशन के 2 दिन बाद में कैसे सबमिशन करूँगी?
But also the acceptance level from the education system has grown to give a little more laxity.
Sometimes to me, I find it a bit too mind-boggling, because I'll tell you, let's be clear with the facts. Industry is going to be ruthless. Industry is not going to be lenient. And if you're not preparing them for the industry, the hard days ahead, so industry में तो they say that if you didn't perform, you're out. And there is enough people to take over your job, okay?
So by being hard on them is really for them. Is that what you're saying?
We want you to be prepared for the tomorrow that you're going to go into the industry for. And it's just not, we don't want to not only go to the industry, we want to see you successful out there.
अभी salary की competitiveness भी change हो गई है.
बिल्कुल change हो गई है.
And I've seen a lot of students who have joined and join भी किया उन्होंने. They suddenly want to get to a senior post.
Right.
Fashion में, forget about fashion anywhere. They suddenly want to be the chief designer, head designer. भाई उसमें tenure लगता है, You have to
Well,
understand.
first of all, you have to earn the trust of the organization where you're joining. You have to prove yourself. I have known students, Shweta, who joined any organization and within 3 months they started climbing like that because they proved themselves.
If I was your student, what would you ask me not to do when I go to work?
अपने ऑफिस को कॉलेज मत समझना. That's the first line I would tell you. There's going to be a lot of expectations from you, and there are going to be high level of competition waiting for you.
Practical tips for the students when they make their portfolio and go into the industry.
Start working from day one, the day you enter the college. So by the time you are in the 4th year, you are a graduating student, you have a great portfolio to be there in front of you, which clearly highlights your plus points. आप इंडस्ट्री को वो दो ना जो आप हो. What you are is what you're going to offer in the industry, but then ensure that your best is there out there.
Fair enough.
So your portfolio and your resume virtually becomes your advertising campaign. There's a very great saying in Bhagavad Gita which I always stand by. If you can't stand for something, don't cry for what you lost. If you can't stand for the work that you have done in your portfolio, if you can't stand for what you've written in your resume, you will never be able to get into the right industry. See, because some students, they want to do designing and merchandising also to begin with, okay? So there, I see very little scope for a creative designer to go there. Lavishly spread करो, पूरा जैसे buffet prepare करते हैं ना. Just prepare your portfolio like the best you have out there. You have to market yourself and don't be somebody else. Just be yourself. Just be yourself and be for yourself proudly and be very clear about who you are. You know, industry would love you for it. If that particular company is not liking you for what you are, that's not the right place for you to go.
Correct, 500%.
They have to realize it.
Where do you think the future of fashion education is in India? Where do you think it's going?
Because already institutions like Pearl, they've got mega plans to go global. It already is, but not to the extent wherein by which we make a mark. You understand that? How many designers, yes, how many Indian designers we have produced who are world class? Like Japan came out with Yohji Yamamoto and Rei Kawakubo, and you know, Rei Kawakubo had her Comme des Garçons, okay? And Kenzo, okay? Kenzo was in Paris, of course, but then it's Japanese designer. So they brought in an international aspect of Japan into the global scenario.
We really do need.
I think somebody who
Sabyasachi,
yes.
I started.
Rahul Mishra. Yes, there are a new breed of designers.
Shane, but I mean.
Yeah, but I would call more of people like Sabyasachi or Rahul Mishra and even Manish Arora once upon a time. I used to love Manish Arora's stuff.
Who didn't?
The quirky, the kind of kink he brought into the ramp was crazy, okay? So, but then, you know, that one or twice here, there, everything, you know. Like recently I just heard one of the Pearl alumni, she was the first female Indian designer to have showcased in the Paris Fashion Week.
Oh, lovely.
Okay? Yeah. I see that happening. Do you know why? Because India is now world's 4th largest economy. So now when an economy is going to reach at that level, you can understand the catalytic process that is going to happen in terms of the country's positioning. What Indian designers should not forget is the rich traditional set of craft, skills and sophistication. They're looking back to things like Vaimanika Shastra, the flying machines from India. They are looking at certain set of Sanskrit ancient slokas which even we don't know from where they got it. They're looking at sacred geometry. They're looking at concepts like Kali, which is not the idol form, but it's the conceptual form of Kali. Things like that are emerging now, and I can see
as design
that.
Influences.
And the level of sophistication that was existing. Look at the sophistication of Malmals from Dhaka. Dhaka is still considered like it's a part of the Indian heritage, okay? Then we have the Banarsi sarees. Okay, how many countries across the globe have that kind of sophistication in terms of the finesse of the craftsmanship? Just because it's not shown in the soft lens like Louis Vuitton or Christian Dior would show, doesn't mean that we lack. We just need to market it and produce it for the contemporary world of today. And believe me, that's why I told you. Some people say it's going to take time, it's going to take about 7-10 years. Sometimes I feel that it could be within the next 2-3 years. Yeah, so that's where we are heading to. And on top of it, the technology part of it. Technology has never taken over fashion education like right now the way it is happening. You even have the concept of meta happening in the campus now. You have the concept of cloth 3Ds where virtual fashion shows students are being trained to do their virtual fashion shows.
I hope you're part of that future. You're not looking to change your stream, are you? Because you really love what you do now.
I love. I love teaching. I love being with the new generation. When I'm calling a new generation, I'm calling the kids who are my students. But I still feel I'm the new generation.
What are your plans for yourself?
Plans, I would like to do more research. I'd like to do greater research on pedagogy of a child, like so that, as faculties, how can we document the changing situations?
To groom them?
No, to support them.
To support them.
Be an individual and become great in that.
With that, Sriranjan, thank you so much for coming to our studios. We hope to see you again and probably visit Pearl one day.
Oh, wonderful.
And meet all your students.
Oh, it would be a pleasure for me, Shweta, to host you and your team.
Thank you very much.
In the academy out there, because it's a wonderful place to be, because as I tell you, it's a wonderful place to be. That's what makes life more beautiful.
Cheers to that. Thank you for coming to the studios.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Once again. Cheers.